Hello, thank you for tuning in. This is part 2 of our series on working with Azure Databricks. And today we're going to be talking about exploring your data. And I'm going to hand it over right away to our Databricks expert, Nikhil Gupta.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. So this is Nikhil Gupta. I work as a partner solutions architect at Databricks. And today we would be continuing from a previous session. And the idea for today's session is to go and explore the data, right? So let me go and quickly share my screen. Perfect. So today we would be deep diving into Databricks SQL. So Databricks SQL, what's it's all about, and we have John as well on the session, and we will go through a demo and explore some and do some data analysis on Databricks SQL. So Databricks' vision is to enable data-driven innovation to all enterprises, right? And this we are working with industry across verticals with thousands of clients, right? And this is just a small sample of clients, helping them to achieve what their endeavors are, right? In terms of data engineering, data science, SQL, all sorts of use cases. We are working with different clients across industries, right? So Database SQL basically allows you to do BI and analytics on top of your data lake. And you can do via the Databricks SQL UI within Databricks, or you can take tools of your choice, say a Power BI. You can connect to Databricks SQL endpoints and do your SQL analytics on top of that. So how does, what's the founding principle? So Database SQL, we announced in 2020 in the Data and AI Summit. The idea behind is always, put your data in an open data lake format, right? Open data lake on Azure is ADLS Gen 2. Put your data in there and then, add the management and the governance layer on top of that, right? And that could be achieved, and that would be achieved by putting your data in the Delta format. And from that one source of data, the idea is to do all sorts of use cases, data engineering, BI, MS, machine learning, and real-time analytics, right? And the focus for today is learning more about the BI and the SQL part of your of the platform. So what is Databricks SQL, right? So our vision for Databricks SQL is pretty simple, right? We want to provide the most performant, simplest, and powerful SQL platform, right? And want to do in an open way, right? And so it doesn't come at a cost. We have realized like SQL is the most important as enterprise. SQL users are one of the most important enterprise customers, right? And they have huge use cases around that. So, we have built in a lot of capabilities which offers a great BI and SQL experience to our users. So the first thing I want to talk about is around performance, right? So we have done a lot of work since the announcement of Database SQL to improve the real world performance of the platform, right? And then most of these performance basically comes through the Photon native vectorized engine, which we introduced this year. We have done also a lot of work around reducing the processing times of small queries, working, enabling small and big queries work together and run simultaneously, increasing the performance when you're connecting your BI tools to SQL endpoints. So a lot of performance enhancements have been done, which really makes the Databricks SQL a performant platform. But end of the day, right? Performance isn't everything. It's also about the experience, right? So while creating Databricks SQL, we wanted not to only to build a performant product, but also wanted to create a simple product, an easy to use product, which basically, enables both admin and the analyst to work on the same platform, right? And next, I will basically go in and talk about the admin experience and then followed by the analyst experience. So from the administrative perspective, the first thing which comes up is your, right? It's very easy to get started with. So you can go in, we have something called SQL endpoints on Databricks SQL. So think of SQL endpoints as, right, your really easy to start compute engines. So you can start your compute, but you don't have to worry about, what sort of VMs we have to use, what sort of runtime I have to select, right? It automatically goes in, picks in the optimum VMs, optimum runtimes. It scales horizontally for infinite amount of VMs you can output, and then you can start really easy to configure and tune those SQL workloads. And after setting up the compute, the next task comes is around administration, right? How do you monitor what's happening? So, very easy to use in the monitoring tab, where you can go in and look into what sort of queries are running, how much time queries are taking, right? It's very easy to drill down, use those UIs, find those, peak running queries, and trying to drill down further and further. And so, you have some sort of understanding of what's happening on the platform and what's happening, where the users are spending most of the time. And of course, the last part is around, admins can also look in what set of queries are being run on the platform, right? And then, they can leverage the query details. They can look at it, how much time the queries are taking, just to understand the performance characteristics of these queries. Very easy to do that. There's a central query history, which enables admins to do that as well. And finally, this was around the admin experience. So first-in-class admin experience, use SQL endpoints, monitor the queries, use query history to go in and look at what sort of queries are being run. And then is around the then is around the analyst experience, right? So we focus around providing first-in-class SQL development experience to the analyst, right? And this was done basically, taking feedback from hundreds of analysts who are working on different BI tools, and talking and working each day on those BI on those SQL editors, right? And we worked with them, and we took their feedback, and then we had a set of requirements which we felt, would make this Databricks SQL an easy to use interface and provide a much enhanced analyst experience. So we have added a long list of features over here, right? It includes tabs, multiple query tabs. You can you have auto save and auto complete, so you don't have to worry about losing your work, right? Integrated command history. You can collaborate with your peers in the organization, in your teams. You can troubleshoot. A lot of features, which makes it a first-in-class SQL editor and help analysts, complete their work. Another big part, which I feel, so this was around, using Databricks SQL, the part of the platform within Databricks. But a lot of our customers use SQL endpoints to connect to their preferred BI tools, say Power BI. It's one of on Azure platform. We see a lot of our customers use Power BI, connect to Databricks, using SQL endpoints, and then they start processing that data and creating dashboards out of that. So we have built-in integration with a lot of BI tools. If you have existing BI tools, you can easily come and connect to SQL endpoints, which would provide you with horizontal scalability for n numbers of clusters, right? So very easy to do that, all optimized, all performance based. So perfect. So yeah, that's a very quick overview and presentation on Databricks SQL. But I usually like to, we usually learn from the demo portion, seeing in action what Databricks SQL use looks like. So I would pass it to John, who would not only take you, the entire use case and end to end how we do use Databricks SQL.
Great. Great. Thank you, Nikhil. And I will show my screen. Okay, hopefully everybody can see my screen.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you, Nikhil. So as Nikhil mentioned, we are going to get into the Databricks SQL environment. I would like to start with the notebook environment or workspace that I showed, or that Nikhil showed last time in episode 1, and how we will use this environment for the ETL of the table that we'll use in Databricks SQL, or as we call it, DB SQL. So you might remember this is the landing page for the workspace environment or workspace environment or the notebook environment, and what we're going to start with is just a little refresher of how you get started. As you can see, I actually have a notebook up and running, but I did want to show what the compute looks like on this side of the world, the notebook side of the world, and show how what the differences are between it and what we'll see on the DB SQL side. So on this side, we have clusters, and clusters are essentially Spark clusters, although that's not the only thing that you have to use them for. And the first thing that you'll probably notice, comparatively speaking to what Nikhil showed earlier and what I'll show you in a little while, this screen has a lot more knobs to turn, especially when you come down to the advanced options, than with DB SQL. DB SQL is set up for extreme convenience. This area is actually also convenient, but it's definitely nowhere close to as simple as the DB SQL endpoints, which are essentially sets of clusters horizontally expanding as needed. After we set up a set of clusters to run, or set up a cluster to run, we can give it any name, and just let it go and get started. Then after that, we actually come in here. Generally speaking, I can go to my own home page in the workspace and start a notebook. In this notebook, I will be starting a Python notebook, but Nikhil and I have actually been working on a notebook already in his workspace environment, and it's right here. This one is actually, this cluster isn't currently running, but that's okay because I've already done the work that I wanted to show you yesterday. So in this notebook, we have two sections. The first section is how we're going to ingest and do light transformations on the data set. The data set that we're going to use is NYC taxi data that's publicly available. This taxi data is referenceable by every workspace through the Databricks datasets folder path. And if you want, it is also available through the Azure Open Datasets and Azure ML Open Datasets package that Nikhil showed last time in our last episode. Then the second piece that we're going to discuss is SQL exploration of this data and the BI that you can build off of those data sets. You can think in this architecture here, you can think of the ingest as this left-hand side. Specifically, we're going to actually do a scheduled type of ingest that shuts itself off after it's finished. Then the transformation into a delta table that we think is that is prepped enough to be used in BI. You can think of as two sets in the middle here as Delta Lake tables. And then when we move over to the Databricks SQL side, you can think of it as exploratory data in BI, which is indicated by the right-hand side in this business intelligence area. We'll actually touch on the machine learning piece in our next episode. So we set up a couple configurations, and before getting going, we look into the data set for NYSE taxi data that's in the Databricks data sets. Specifically, we are going to look at the green taxi trip data, which is indicated by this path. This is a path that can be accessed by any workspace. So you will be able to replicate this through this notebook when we put it out onto GitHub later today. The first thing that we are going to do is we're going to actually only pull 1 month worth of data, just for brevity, really, more so than anything else. Secondarily, we change the columns. We cast the data type of the column for the columns for the date type, date times as timestamps. They're actually coming through as strings, so we're explicitly going to turn them into timestamps so that they adhere to any type of where clause that we put into play. Specifically, we're actually doing it here where we're going to take a week's worth of data, the first week of December of 2015, and trim down the data set a little bit for convenience in the demo. And then we will overwrite the Delta table, if it exists, to the table location that we set up in our configuration. And if it doesn't exist, it'll just write the first version of that data set. So now that we actually have a data set that runs and is written in, and as you can see, this data set actually takes 25 seconds to run and do all of the ETL. We are then going to set up a database and a delta table in the canonical way that you would usually explore data in SQL through, say, any other database or data warehouse. We set up a taxi data database and a taxi trips table, and then we create a table for taxi trips that is what is called an external table that points at a specific location in Azure Data Lake. In this case, again, set up during our configuration. After that's set up, we can then, just for a little sanity check, we are looking at the description of that set. As you can see, we have all of our data sets, including our timestamps that are now in the correct correct data type, and everything else looks to be good. So at this point, we are really ready to actually start to write some queries. I've written these queries out already for everyone so that you have them available. If you want to go in and explore this data yourself, you'll be able to do so by taking this notebook. and then copying and pasting these data sets, or you can even explore the data yourself after making the original Delta table as well. The first query that we will look at is it's essentially it's a fair analysis by date, or by day, excuse me, day of week, where we derive the day of week from the date time that we've set to a timestamp, and then we're using an else clause to actually get the actual days so that we can look at it a little bit more intelligently. And we are going to look at the trip distance and distances and fair amounts that are associated to those on a scatter plot. A little sanity check to see what the data set looks like. Next set that we will look at is a mapped pickup locations. This is a special type of chart that we have in DB SQL that allows us to point locations on a map. So this will actually place these on the map and allow you to see in an interactive way where all the locations of all the trips for that given amount of time. Then we have just a summation or a count of all trips, the fair amount summation that's associated to the table as well, and then a pickup hour distribution over the course of the trips, and also a drop-off hour distribution over the same set. All of these you can also you can set up parameters that allow you in DB SQL to restrict these times based off of the parameter sets if you like. I will show you how that functionality works, but really for brevity, kind of leaving it out of this set. But at the same time, that is actually something that's extremely easy to do, especially with things such as a calendar, time and calendar parameter that you can basically a date picker that you can use to do that work. So now that we've looked at these data sets, let's or these SQL statements that we're going to use. I'm going to actually do one thing first. I'm going to take this first one and show you how we can make a chart based off of it. But before going into there, I kind of wanted to show you what Nikhil showed pictures of, but actually get in and kind of play around with the environment a little bit. So we have a switcher here that allows you to pick where you want to actually go. We're going to go to the SQL environment in this workspace. In this workspace, you have the opposite. That's also possible. You can then switch back to data science engineering. That's actually where we were. Or you can switch to a machine learning specific workspaces, or I guess environment as well, if you like. Each one of these has a unique UI that's specific to the type of work being done in that environment, and that's exactly what this DB SQL environment is made for. It's made to essentially allow you to really hone in on everything SQL based and not worry about the rest of the environment if you don't need it at the moment. So this is what the homepage of the DB SQL workspace looks like. Just like on the other side, we had clusters. Here we have SQL endpoints. We'll actually get into these later, but specifically, I wanted to show you what a endpoint looks like. We're going to actually use the shared endpoint photon, but just for giggles, I will kick one off as well. Maybe we'll switch over to it. You never know. So as you can see, it allows you to set up permissions, and I can give all users to use, and I'll add them, and we should be on our way. It's actually starting. In here, actually, I skipped over a little bit. Before we go there, I do want to show you the differences between what we looked at in create cluster and what we had here. So create cluster, as you can see, there's a lot more bells and whistles that are associated and configurations that are associated here. What we really are striving for endpoints is to really distill what is needed in an endpoint and make it as simple as possible. So for example, you really just need a name. You need a size of cluster that you want. It's literally just the cluster size. You can get into the specifics of what that is if you like. But the keys here are that you can auto stop just like on the cluster size. But these clusters for load balancing, you can actually have, it starts out as a set of one, but then you can have multiple load balancing clusters spin out horizontally if you need massive concurrency. This will allow for you to essentially bring on as many people as you want onto an endpoint, scaling that out horizontally as you go. And as Nikhil pointed out, Photon is our vectorized C++ engine that allows for extremely optimized queries, and it is turned on by default, but you can actually fall back to the standard Databricks Spark engine if you like as well. You can also set up tags so that you can track what is being used and when. So that's the basis of what's happening on the SQL endpoints themselves. So now let's actually jump into query and see how we can actually explore some of this data. So first off, we're actually, right now, I'm actually in the taxi database. As you can see, you can actually, there's a ton of various databases that are associated here. This is the one that I made. And you can, if needed, you can filter the tables and columns. But in this case, as you can see, we really only have one table anyways. So we can explore what's here. And I'm actually going to get into that in a little bit further. But to just get started, I'm going to take the SQL statement around the fair day exploratory data, and I'm just going to run this to see what it looks like. So we're running this against the shared photon. It came up with 5,400 rows very quickly. This is pretty basic data that we're looking at. It's essentially really every fare and every distance for every trip for that. The numeric day of week. And can everybody, Nikhil, can you see my screen still? I just had Teams.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, great. Thank you. fare data and trip distance that are associated in each one of these cases. So this is the data that came back from that SQL statement, and obviously, you know, that can be done on the other side of the world as well in the notebook. So why is that so interesting? Well, one, we can actually look at it this way, but we can, what gets really cool is adding visualizations here. So we can change to many different visualization types, including maps and pivot tables is probably some of the more complex ones. In this case, what we're actually going to look at is a chart, and we're going to look at a scatter plot. That's here we're going to do a scatter plot. We are going to excuse me. We are going to do fair amount. We'll go fair distance and fair amount going up the y-axis. Okay, there we go. And then we are going to group by the day of week so that we can actually see what we're doing here is what I wanted to do is I wanted to see what days of week this really look like. And as we can see, and you can zoom in and out even at this rate, you can see here that there's a huge amount of Saturday traffic, and you know that totally makes sense because probably everybody is out and about taking taxis to go to dinner or meet up with friends or going to the museums in New York City on a Saturday. And then they tail off on other days. We can actually save this. We can save this, and we'll actually call this trip info by day scatter plot. Oh, excuse me. Can say that. And we're also going to give this a name. We're going to call it fare analysis or daily fare distance analysis. And you can run this whenever you like. So this would be the first plot, and as you can see, it's very simple to make these plots. You can also very simply augment what's here. This is something that I like. Let's just put in another weekday as another day. And you can actually format these. So you can actually write these, noodle around with ideas, and then format them as you need to over the course of time. And in this case, we're actually not going to save that change, but it will save if we needed it to. But really what I wanted to do as well is make a new query. That's okay, we actually already saved it off, so we'll start there. And this one I wanted to explore the idea of exploring the data set and what that would look like. In this case, I don't want to type these out necessarily, so I'm actually just gonna, you can also drag and drop these values or put them in. And I'm gonna actually look at the pickup locations for all of these trips. So let's just look at what the lat long are for these trips. That doesn't really do all that much for me, but what we can start to do with this data is Now that we have these lat longs, I don't know what this actually means, and I don't know what the difference between, 40.81, 81 latitude and a 40.83 latitude is. So let's actually look at these on a map and see what that looks like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the map markers where we can actually have all of these as points directly on the map and see if our data looks any good, quite frankly. Let's go look and see if we have a bunch of problems or if things look okay. And as we can see, a lot of these look like they're in the area of New York City, which is good, but we also have a lot of them off the coast of Africa, which if anyone has done any mapping work in coding in the past, I have. I worked at MapQuest for 6 years, and you can tell that that's essentially zeros. That is 0.0 or 0 for lat long is right there. So I think that those ones are probably just bad. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to go out and I'm going to remove all of those ones where they do not seem right. So let's run this again. And see what we come up with this time. All right, so this time, let's do the same thing and see what we come up with. And it looks like they're all in the right spot. So that's great. And we can actually even interactively go down and kind of make sure that they're all there. And they are, which is nice. We can see that people are taking a couple trips way out from the city. But generally speaking, they're right in the middle of the city or out on Long Island. If anybody's aware of the area, as we can see, a lot of these are in Manhattan and the area around it. So that looks good. So let's keep this, and we'll actually keep the name we'll keep map markers. And we are going to give this one a name too. All right, so we have these two queries. And what can we do with those? We have them. Actually, cancel. I'm going to save that. We have these ready now, and we have a couple of these. I actually have a duplicative set here based off of the ones that I made. I've also built out visualizations for each one of the other queries that I showed you in the notebook. So these are available for anybody to see now. Anybody that you give access to can actually go in, use these. They can edit them if needed and collaborate with you on them. Really cool. You can actually also make your own dashboards associated. I've already made one here with all of this data in here, but I did want to also show you how you can easily do that. So now we're going to go in and build out our own dashboard. We'll just call it So you can also do filter level pieces for this. You can filter things out, but what we're going to do is we're going to actually build out these sets and show you how easy that can be done. So we can, what I'm doing here is I'm basically picking out the first chart I want to see, and that's going to be the daily fare. And I will move this around. So that it is, we'll go to out there. What did my other one look like? Let's see. Okay, we'll kind of make it look like about the same. So we're just adding visualizations really at this point. Let's put in the total trip number that we have. We have a counter set. This is a very basic counter that that you can have in there, and we're just going to add it like that. Let's make that a little bit bigger. So really, it's very simple to actually move all of this stuff around and kind of play with it. This is all interactive and actually can be collaborative as well. So now we're going to pick the fare amount. Of the map. Make this one a little bit bigger so it can be a little bit interactive. Make sure that that's big enough to kind of move it around and interact with it. All right, now let's add pickup hour distribution. This can be a really long, thin one so that it can actually spread out the 24-hour values. And now drop off distribution. And then we're all done. We're done editing this guy. So we'll go back into view mode. You can now interactively look at this. You can actually schedule this to be run on a normal basis. You can share it out with others. You can then go to full screen, download it as a PDF. You can even clone it and start working on a new version of this if you like. You can then interact with all of these and start to really drill into where any of these specific locations are all over the country, the world, specifically in New York City, right next to the 3rd Avenue Bridge, wherever you like. It's really cool, and you're able to explore that information through the queries themselves as well, and really get down to what you need to show and when and how to interactively with, say, the map. You can also do the same thing when you actually have fair amounts that are maybe erroneous, say like trip distances, or fair amounts that are negative values. You probably don't want to include them. That's actually how I found what to keep out of the ETL. It's really handy for exploratory work. So that's what I wanted to show you today. I hope this looks pretty cool. You can actually very quickly build out all of this yourself by building, again, a query for each one of the queries that you have in the notebook, and then building out your own dashboards. I would actually say what would be really fun is to see how you not really just hit copy and paste our SQL, canned SQL that we give you in the notebooks, but how you can explore this data through, say, a new query, and how you can actually go in and find new insights using the editor itself, and then really taking that and exploring that data even further by building out charts and maps and everything else that you can actually do in there as well. So that's what I have for today. So Nikhil, based off of that, are there any questions that are associated that you think?
Yeah, sure. There are a couple. I think a few of them are quite interesting. So one of the question is, right, how do you control data access on Databricks SQL to users, right? So I think that was the first question.
Yes, you would do that as a admin, and I actually unfortunately don't have admin privileges on this workspace, but you do that through the admin. An admin will have to actually give those access privileges, and that's available at a database level, at a table level, and also a view level, so that you can restrict at either a column level or a row by row where clause type of access level. You can also obscure data if you want to as well, based off of those views. So it's actually very malleable, and you can really get down to the access level needed on a group or user basis.
Yep. Yeah, and adding to John's point, right? If you want to explore further, the term we use is called table ACLs. So explore table ACLs. Basically, it's a way how we manage access to tables, to views, to databases onto Databricks, right? So yeah. Perfect. The second question is, right, does dashboard support filters across widgets, right?
Yes, it does. In fact, let me see if I can even put one in maybe to one of these queries, but you essentially build these in. I think probably this one might work. If we want to actually include one, you can either do it by hand, or you can, excuse me, there we go. You can also then, where? Actually, probably less than or greater than some value. And what you can do is you can pick the type, and what you would actually do in this case, date, time. You can include various types of parameters. This one in particular, you can then, it allows you to pick, it's a date picker with time values. This value here will then, after you fill this out correctly, would then be available in the note in the dashboard. Yes, I'll. That would be available in the dashboard in here. This one may be taking it, and we can actually can change this. The you would change this. I think this is actually taking my change. Excuse me. Let me show a different one. So basically what just happened, oh, there it goes. Okay, great. We can edit it, and you can actually add the filters that are associated to those each ones, and they are available so that, yeah, based off of the name, you would essentially use the same name for each filter, and then you can actually take those and identify them, and they'll actually drill in based off of the dashboard itself. So, okay, and then temp table patterns, I see that. I can't see can you see the whole question, Nikhil?
Yeah, I think it's that's lots of, I think, yeah. I think that's a full question over here. So yeah.
Where it says, oh, i.e. lots of self joins, ... That's not a ... That says read more. Okay, fair enough then. Sorry. Okay, yes, some of these patterns are available for you in here. You can also then have them, you can build out temp views and temp tables directly in here. Let me pull up a query and show you at least some of the what is available for you. So like when I start with select, it actually allows you to then it will actually start to give you helper values that are associated at any given time where you can use these patterns going forward. It'll also allow you to bring in different pieces as needed. Trying to stay away from any patterns that we should avoid, lots of self joins. I mean, for the self join cases, that's I would actually suggest using windowing functions that are associated directly in here. We have very powerful ways that you can actually partition down various pieces of a data frame or a table where you can actually, instead of doing self joins, you can do those based off of the information that's associated at any given time from not necessarily only aggregates, but also by windowing those sets over the full table. I would suggest using that as opposed to self joins. Others, temp views themselves are actually a good way to essentially break those down, and then it might sound kind of silly, but the formatting, I think, is actually a great way to really collect your thoughts after you've started to explore the data as well, and then break those down into iterative subqueries. So I don't know, were there any other questions that you think that we should answer, Nikhil, that came up over time?
No, I think it's all good from the questions perspective. Yeah, I really like, the demo was like, we like the demo and the interface. Yeah, and looking forward, right? Seeing you guys build your as you build your dashboards, as you go into explore the data. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we're really looking forward to seeing what you build out with all these various pieces. Do keep in mind that, as I showed earlier, like these tools, especially the visualization of them, they're not only good for making pretty pictures, but they can really help you with finding data that could basically be caught earlier in the ETL process. We also have something called DLT that can also help with that, with expectations. But if you're here and ready to use it, yeah, these types of little things, being able to, one, just see the data as is, and the data schema at hand is as you can tell, very powerful. But even more so, putting this stuff on a map. So for example, this one, putting on a map and seeing that, you have taxis in the, off the coast of Africa, that's probably not a good sign. And just catching those graphically can be, can really help out, and can drive what you can do with these kind of capabilities in the opposite way, where you're actually you're helping influence your data engineering as well. Cool. All right. Well, with that, do you think there's anything else that we should discuss, Nikhil, or what are your thoughts?
I think it's good. It's pretty comprehensive, right? So yeah, it was. We talked about SQL endpoints. We talked about query editor. Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's a good platform, and yeah, should be fine.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for having us, Matt.
Thank you. This was a good session, and look forward to seeing everyone back here in December. And if you've got any other questions, folks, feel free to reach out to us at msusdev@microsoft.com, and we'll help out. See you next time.
October.